Hello there and welcome to UGNJAMZ. Thank you so much for tuning in this evening. And this evening is a special exclusive. We have the UGNJAMZ ladies. I'm Helen and I have Heather B with me and Keziah Joe from Reggae Royalty. And it's great just to be here all together in the flesh. Live. So we thought we'd do a special because March is a kind of important month. We're celebrating International Women's Day and Mother's Day. So we don't just do it for one day. We don't do it for 1 week. We celebrate on UGNJAMZ for the whole month, all the ladies. And we're just going to enjoy ourselves tonight and have some really just rich conversation. And I guess I might as well start off the questioning. And we've got lots of lovely food. I know you can't see it, but if you hear us munching, it's because we've decided to have a little, some hors d'oeuvres while we chat as well. So I guess I'll start it off. Keziah, you have 3 boys, don't you?
Yes, I do. Well, and boys, you might as well call them men.
Men, and one husband. And they're big, strapping lads. And we have 2 boys, and you have a girl. One girl. Congratulations on motherhood. Keziah, somebody said to me, "Oh, when you have boys, it'll make you like a tomboy." Do you think that's true? I mean, you look really feminine this evening.
Well, I try. I mean, I have to say, I'm not really what you would call a pink. I never have been like a pink girl, like all things pink. I've always wavered in, don't really have many pink clothes actually. So if that is a measure of me being a bit tomboyish, then yeah. But I think God gives you what he believes you need to be able to steward. And in his infinite wisdom, he just landed me with 3 young boys. So there you go.
And you've done a great job. So do you feel protected when you're with them then now?
I do, because they're all taller than me. So, and they got that way very quickly. So, I mean, you learn to practice the look from a very young age. From they get to about your knee, you have to start practicing that look. So so when they see that face, it says, don't mess about.
Right. It's just the look. So mine might be the voice. So I mean, we're celebrating tonight all inclusive. Now that means whether you're married, you're divorced, you're a single mother hoping for a husband, single or mother or no mother, or decided that you don't want children or you can't have children, you are special. And that's what we're celebrating tonight. Heather, so you're a doctor, Dr. Heather B. Dr. Heather B. I want to put the doctor because you've worked hard for that. You worked for 5 years for that PhD. And I've heard you speaking, and your show is amazing. You're on Wednesdays, but I've heard you speaking out, and my life is not the same.
Amen.
So you're a psychologist.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you have a daughter.
Yes.
Now, your daughter is very special in the fact that she gets to hear a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. No filter.
No filter.
How old is she?
9, 10 this year.
9. Now, I saw you speaking out. Some of that stuff, I would probably put corks in my boys' ears. How so a 9-year-old hearing that sort of stuff, I mean, deep stuff about, relationships, psychology, the mind, the challenges. How's that affected her? Is she like 9 going on 25?
You know what? I make sure that I keep her innocence, but at the same time making her be aware of herself, of others, of her body. Things like when we say, sharing is caring, I'm like, no, sharing is not caring, because you will not be sharing your vagina.
It's all right. It's after 9 o'clock. It's fine. It's fine. Now that we laugh, but I was thinking today there is so much pressure on young women because of social media, and just that some young girls, they're beautiful, but because of the pressure of social media, they don't feel beautiful. But it's all false. It's all filtered.
Yes.
So how can we get them into that natural look depending on filters?
I think, you know what, the way technology is right now, everything is Google, Instagram, TikTok. Sometimes when my daughter's talking to me, it's a lot of TikTok language. I'm like, what? But then she can be around other people and they're speaking, they're like laughing. I'm like, wow, okay. But that's why I think it's important when I do have conversations such as, you know, whether it's about sex, purity, you know, whether it's about the emotional health, physical health, and so forth, that she understands it from her, on her level, and I always make sure that she is in the room when I'm speaking, because when I was young, I did not hear anything like that. It was shamed upon, it was frowned upon. And so even as a married person, for example, you know, we're women, so we're gonna just speak it and be real. You know, when you're having sex in marriage, there is a sense of shame that still carries in the bedroom because of the way it was spoken when we were young. And so it's important to be like, sex is okay, it's of God, you know, it's everyone is beautiful in their own way, you know, but you need to embrace yourself. So even like certain things, you know, she'll say to me, oh, I don't like that, but I'll be like, but I like it. So then when I'm like, oh, I don't like that, she'll be like, but I like it. So it's like constantly modeling it, but also knowing that, not giving her too much that she loses that innocent, but at the same time preparing her, especially where everything is on Google, everything can be seen, and there's a loads of influencers and things like that.
I mean, the media, the pop stars, well, I shouldn't say strippers, but there's nothing really left to the imagination. That was a bit controversial what I just said, but you know, it's just like who can be the most shocking. I'm not talking about gospel artists, I'm talking about pop stars in general. It's almost like, right, well, I showed this boob, oh well, I'm going to show my boob, and it's like, oh my goodness, just modesty is don't men find it more attractive when they have to imagine what's underneath? You know,
the hope is that they do. I mean, funnily enough, I saw a video clip. There's a UK rapper called D-Shy, based up in Birmingham, and she actually did a video, shout out to D-Shy, about women dressing appropriately for the music, you know, industry, and just how we're viewed as artists, female artists, when we underdress, you know. And she was quite passionate about it, and she was saying that, look, you know, when you do these videos, remember, it's there for life. Your children's children's children. And I just posted that I don't know what it would be like for the child in that situation, because you can imagine they go to school, that 1 minute they have to defend their mother, you know, or sometimes, I mean, I've heard it said, oh, this is just a uniform, baby. This is not me. It's just a uniform that mummy wears for work.
Right.
So maybe they go to school and say, oh, that's not my mom, that's her uniform. And then they may get into fights or disagreements, or they themselves may feel a personal sense of shame, you know, because their mum is, you know, gallivanting out with everything hanging out. So I don't know what it feels like in the mind of a child to have a mother who's an artist who does actually show more or less all of her body. I don't know what they feel like, you know, and growing up, how they process all of that. You know, I don't know.
It's like if that's your peer or your peers are doing that, you feel that that who it was, you did a song, didn't you? What's the song that I don't have to have big hips, and
I'm that woman.
I'm that woman. I love that song because it's all about, it's not about my hips and my boobs, it's about my heart. And there's two when I was growing up, I realized there was two types of women. There was girlfriend wife material, and there was mistress one-off material, you know, that the guy, he would want both, but this person would be for that, and that person would be for that, and you either one or the other. So the mistress, the party girl, and then the wife and the girlfriend would be the one that mollycoddles him, and he would have the best of both worlds sometimes. But it was really sad because those ladies that identify as mistresses, because they're seeking love, and that's all they can get to get that love, and that's that they feel that is love, and we know it's not. I guess that's they once they've labeled that mistress, it's very hard for them to build up their self-esteem. I don't know, you're the psychologist. How do you get rid of the psychology of mistress to become wife material? Because doesn't it say to find a wife?
He who finds a wife.
He who finds a wife. So she's already prepared for a wife. So there's
how to prepare
to be a wife as opposed to a mistress. You know, because if guys keep on saying the same thing to you, you know, and I'm talking to the single ladies who maybe a bit younger, haven't found that relationship, and you know, guys can be, I'm going to be like sexist now, but they can just be really disrespectful to women.
Yeah.
if they can get it for free.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
You know. So I've just opened a can of worms, haven't I?
Not
So
really.
is mistress a mindset like based on low self-esteem, do you think?
I don't know. I think
The other woman, you know. So women that will always be the other woman or the mistress.
Yeah, I think it's both ways. There's some people that enjoy being the other woman because they just feel like they're
there for the best part.
Yeah, like and there's no commitment.
Yeah, that's the word.
So there's sometimes people do, like women do make those vows that I'm not gonna let that man control me, and they feel that them being a mistress is actually them being on the better side,
right?
And stuff like that. Whereas on the other side, it is a low self-esteem issue, and you know, sometimes people are or women are so used to meeting up to people's expectations and opinions and approval and that acceptance that it's like they're constantly fighting to get to that level of acceptance. And it's just that ever-ending thing, never being able to be in a relationship where they feel good enough. Because sometimes it's those mistresses that are like, they have the good person, but they're like, I don't want you. I like to fight my way because they're used to the chaos.
And they want the bad boy.
Want me, love me. And then on the other side again, it's that person that just never wants to commit. They're fine being second.
And we're talking, you know, we're talking out of a Christian context here. And, you know, because some of the listeners, you may be Christians, you may not be Christians, but I just want to encourage you that God loves you. You are a child of God. You are beautiful inside and out. And I guess once you start believing that, then you can start saying, no, I am God's daughter, you know. But obviously in Christendom, marriage, you know, marriage first before any of that. But even I'll say that, but I'm sorry, but I'm going to be really controversial because I talk to a lot of people, and even in Christendom, where there's so many women and a fewer men, do we all agree there's more women? I've heard stories where the woman was she was with the guy for 7 years, and he wouldn't ask her to marry him, and then he got married within a month to somebody else, and she's got a heal from that. Or another of our very good friends, she's married now to a beautiful man, wonderful man. She was engaged to him, and he was engaged at the same time as someone else. So there are players in church. There are, aren't there? Yes. Because they've got the cream, you know, they can choose. So
which is sad because you know you have you know, single ladies who are trying to live that life of purity, and they want to do it the way that they perceive it to be right in the sight of God. And they've said, I've done everything right, but yet. And so as they get older, you know, that despondency tends to creep up, and they feel a little bit, you know, rejected because they feel they've done it the right way, but yet there's no man on the horizon, and then there's somebody else that's come along and you know,
compromise.
And so they sometimes I think they begin to question whether they did do everything right. Should I have been a bit naughty?
No. I mean, I've seen women leave the church to have a baby because their clock's ticking, and then they come back with the baby, and they've got the child, and then they give their life back to, you know, come back to Christ. I mean,
so we're going to have some music. We've been chatting for a while. We're breaking up the chat with some music.
Yeah, it's getting heavy.
Enjoy.
To advertise or get your music played, contact sales at UGNradio.com, and someone will definitely get back to you as soon as possible. Remember, sales at UGNradio.com. Details on our website at UGNJAMZ.com.
Hi, you are listening to UGNJAMZ, and we have the ladies in the house, the UGNJAMZ ladies. I'm Helen Paul. My show's Heartbeat Thursday night. We have Heather B, who's our in-house Christian, or you're a psychologist, Dr. Heather B, should I say. She's on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. And we have the queen herself, Keziah Joe from Reggae Royalty, which is on Monday nights, 9 p.m. on UGNJAMZ. We are live this evening. You can text us 07961 437 629. That's 07961 437 629 if you want to join in the conversation. We went We went straight in. Oh my goodness. We've been talking about sex before marriage. We've been talking about marriage. We've been talking now, just to give you an insight, we're celebrating International Women's Day, Mother's Day, and we don't just do it for one day, one week on UGNJAMZ, we do it for the whole month. So we're here to share some just lovely conversation and some controversial topics as well. Wow. Okay, so we've been talking about, now we're all different. So I am a white girl. I am half Scottish, half English, and I'm married to Dave P, who does the breakfast show, and he's the founder of the station as well. And Heather, I have 2 boys. I'm a mother of twins. And Heather, you are, I guess you're the youngest of the fold, really. You know, you're quite young, aren't you? But you've got a daughter who's 9. You're a doctor. That's amazing. Keziah, you are, and you're Ghanaian, half, but we're all British because we're all born in England. So heritage. I was born in Britain, in England, so I'm English. So heritage is Ghanaian, and Keziah, heritage is Jamaican. But we're all English. Isn't that wonderful?
Happy Independence Day, Ghana, by the way.
Hey, woo, 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 woo. Wonderful. So yeah, it's like what a lovely melting pot we have on UGN and Jams. What about single moms though? You know, Keziah, you know, church, and you know when we're in church, we're told, you know, about do not fornicate, do not do anything out of wedlock. But women, you know, when they get to 38, 39, there's no sign of man, and they want a child.
Yeah.
You know, what would you say to a woman that you know, is at that point?
Well, I mean, obviously, I can't say that I know what it feels like, because I don't. I do know that there's some very deep hurts and pains when they have been longing for a child, and they want to do it the right way. They want to be married first, and it's almost like they go through a grieving process. Because they do see their body clock kind of winding down, the opportunity to become a mother the way they want to. Because I've spoken to women who are in that situation, and I've even suggested, well, what about adopting so that you can fulfill that motherly role? And I've been told, well, I want my own. They want to experience it in its most naturalist form. And the fact that they can't do that, it's almost like they're grieving for a situation that they're never going to have. And sometimes later on in life, that actually develops into a real form of bitterness.
Against the church.
Against the church, because they believe the church is responsible for holding them back sometimes, but also just against other women who actually do
like envious.
And it's really sad. So, I mean, for all I can say is point you back to God, because I can't say anything. I can't stand in your situation because I don't know.
Because pastors would just talk about Sarah, wouldn't they?
Yeah,
really, and the maidservant.
Yes, there are some amazing women who give some testimonies of being quite old in age, and still being able to conceive.
Janet Jackson.
I understand that. Or if you know, go down
and Naomi Campbell.
Yeah, some of them, you know, they do.
But they've got loads of money, so they've probably frozen their eggs and, you know.
Yeah, but all I can say is that, you know, God, like, sometimes I think we automatically as women, because we have these body parts, I guess, we automatically assume that we are meant to be mothers. But I don't know. I think
some can't make it.
God looks and he says, well, maybe not. I don't know.
You know, I've realized motherhood goes way further than our own kin. And I spoke to someone today, I interviewed with them, and they like, it's like they mother every young person. And it's like motherhood is like a nurturing thing, and it doesn't just have to be your own. You can, you know, take on that mothering. And there's so many young people that need help, aren't there? So that mother, spiritual mother, if you like, it goes so much further than just being a mum of your own. You know, and I've had friends that are total career women, not Christians, but they were total career women, all of them. And later on, when they get to about 44, they think, actually, I want a child now.
Yeah.
And they've ended up adopting.
Yeah, but you know,
Fostering.
there was a time, I think that those sort of women, late 40s, early 50s, there was a movement which says you can have it all.
Yeah.
You can do it all.
Yeah.
And that, as you say, that career, because I know some women like that as well. And everything was about education, getting that top job.
Yeah.
You know, and then they felt they had time to develop relationships after, you know, to get married, to have children. And then when they were ready, there was no man in sight or no suitable man in sight, or they've built themselves to such a stage where any man that comes along, unless he's the same equitable level as them or higher, he's not good enough, because I've done all this by myself.
Yeah.
I've built up my career. I have my own home. I drive my own car. I. And so when the man comes along now, who may not
Poor
be
guy.
at the same level,
Puppy
he
dog.
says, well,
She's
I've got 5 pence where you've got 50 quid.
Oh,
And then
no.
and you know, he may feel inadequate,
Yeah.
or the woman makes him feel inadequate.
You know, that is a really important subject. I'm not going to talk about my friend who actually had IVF as a single woman,
Right.
not Christian,
Yeah.
but she actually chose. It was almost like going through a catalogue. All right, I'll have his sperm. I'll have his sperm. He's good. Yeah. He's intelligent. I'll mix a doctor, and you know, and here she has this baby.
Yeah.
But we're not going to talk about that. You just spoke about something. You just said, what was the last thing you said?
No, I was saying that, you know, women get to a stage sometimes where they've built themselves up to a certain level where no man is.
This is what I noticed in church.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be controversial.
Well, we started that way. So
Well, we might as well finish that way. There's some women that they're so used to being the mother and the father that they've almost become so manly that the man, when he comes along, there's no room for him. And it's like, it's terrified.
Yeah,
it's like, it's such a powerful thing. So women, I'm not saying you have to be we have to be submissive and soft and take it, you know, on the chin. But I heard one woman saying, and this is just ridiculous. She's still not married, by the way. She said, the man that gets me has to fight through all the brambles with a sword.
Yeah.
And if he gets through the brambles, then he gets me. But guess what? She's still single.
Well,
it's not a fairy tale.
Yeah.
So it's like women have become like almost like manly because they've had to survive. They've become hard. You know, no one's going to hurt me. I don't need a man, because that's the way they've had to. Their coping mechanism. So therefore, men are terrified. How do men approach? How can they soften? Even the way they dress, they're not dressing feminine. You know, I'm not saying you have to, you know, dress and Laura Ashley and all that. It's like, how are women attractive to men in the church, or have they become like men themselves? Even in the business world, you know, I can say all the women, successful women, they became like butch, and I'm like, you don't have to be like that. Yeah. So have women in the church become sort of a bit what's the word when you say
not as feminine as they should be?
Yeah, and like almost giving up, because giving up being a woman because they've had enough of waiting, and so therefore playing both roles, if you like, when men are looking for the soft, you know.
I mean, obviously, I think women, we're industrious, we're robust. We have to be whatever we need to be when we need to be. And I think sometimes it's just knowing I don't have to be like that all the time. And when you've lived that kind of life for a length of time, it's about knowing that you need to unlearn certain things.
That's what
especially if, you know, you want a man in your life. You've got to, you know, make room for him. You've got to make space for him. He's got to feel that he's needed. You know, he doesn't want to be surplus to requirements, you know, and he's not an accessory that you just hold on like a handbag or something. So I think it's we just have to be able to unlearn certain things as females within the church. You know, if we're talking about, you know, Christendom, yes, we've had to be the way we've had to be. It's the same as they say, you know, there's women in the church holding up the church because there's not enough men in there. So you'll go and you'll see the woman moving the tables and the chairs and setting all that stuff out and doing their backs in the process, you know, because they've had to, you know, they've had to. But when men do appear, recognize them being there, and make room for them. Don't elbow them out the way.
Yeah. Let them be a man. Let them feel like they're a man.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I shall give you a joke. Well,
Yeah.
I think we'll need to do that after the break. So we've got some more music coming up real soon. But
wonderful.
You just reminded me of an incident when I was at school, and to this day I'll never forget it. So I'll tell you guys after we've had some more wonderful music.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
To advertise or get your music played, contact sales at UGNRadio.com and someone will definitely get back to you as soon as possible. Remember, sales at UGNRadio.com. Details on our website at UGNJAMZ.com.
So you're listening to UGNJAMZ. This is our UGNJAMZ Ladies Special. And I'm Helen Paul, your host, normally on Heartbeat on Thursdays, but it's a Wednesday. We're celebrating International Women's Day and Mother's Day. And for the whole month, we're milking it. I have Dr. Heather B, who's on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. And Keziah J, the Queen of Reggae Royalties, normally on Mondays at 9 p.m. Tuesdays at 8 p.m. and Wednesdays at 1 p.m. as well. And we've just talked about absolutely everything.
Everything.
We did a deep dive.
We started deep and we're going to lighten it up. So the whole theme of International Women's Day is all about being inclusive,
inspiring inclusion.
Yes. Now we've talked about divorce, being single mothers, being married, being girlfriends, being mistresses, even about bad boys in the church. And my goodness.
Before the break, I was going to share something with you. You were talking about, women and relationships and stuff. So I don't know why I remember this. When I was at school, and this would have been a junior school. So I went to a co-ed school, a mixed school. Co-ed educational. And so there was this girl in my year, and we had like an upper building and a lower building, and we had this path that connected the two buildings. So we were coming back from I think it was lunch or a break from the upper building back down to lower building. I think I was first year them days, so that I would have been like 11 or 12. Yeah, and I'm not bothered with boys. I really am not. At that age, I really am not. And we were walking along, and then she dropped 2 pence on the floor, and I went, you dropped your money. You dropped your money. She goes, no, you got to leave it there for the boys to pick it up, and they come and chase you and give you back your money. And I went, oh, is that how it's done then? I didn't have a clue. And one of them did, because they were walking behind us. So it was one of the boys that she liked. And he says, oh, you dropped your 2 pence, and he came and he gave it to her. I thought, wow. So
that's a funny pickup. That's a funny pickup line, isn't it?
So I'm just I'm about
netball.
I'm about whatever. I'm not about boys. 11.
11. I can't remember being 11. You know what I used to do? I tell you what I used to do. If it was raining on the way home, because I was walking home from school. I don't know about you, but by 7 or 8, I was walking to school and from school by myself. And if it was raining, I remember at 11, actually before 11, but 9, I remember if it was raining and there was this particular puddle that I would just walk through it with my school shoes and socks. And I didn't care if I got soaking wet. And it was just such a joy.
Feel uncomfortable and squidgy.
It was a joy. I love the squidge.
Like that.
No, it was like I like the squidge. And it was just when I got home, obviously I got in trouble. 11. I guess 11. I guess my biggest memory is going to the dentist and having fillings and stuff like that at 11. I know that's not good, because the consequence of all the sweets. Obviously when your gran says, oh, don't eat so many of those sweets, they'll rot your teeth, and eventually
I've come a long way from dentists. That was 2 things I had a phobia, and it was needles really. And I remember, you're taking me back now. I remember when I had to have a blood test done. It was so embarrassing. And when you're younger, them days, they used to just give you a little thumb prick. And just get the blood that way. And then I sort of stretched my hand out for the thumb prick. And the woman says, oh, no, we're not doing that. You're too old for that now. And I was still, young. She goes, no, we need to draw from your arm. Oh my gosh. You would have thought they were getting me ready for a padded cell. I kicked, I fought,
Oh.
I screamed, I didn't want it. They called 6 men, orderlies, to hold me down. It was so embarrassing to draw this blood from my arm. And I was a skinny little thing, but I was just fighting because I didn't want that needle. And 3 men hit me down on my right side and 3 on the left. And it's like they said, we're getting that blood from you somehow. Don't hear me. What do you say? You ain't leaving it without that blood being drawn. And after they took it, I felt like I'd been abused. Like I was like,
Oh
my goodness.
but they wanted it. They wanted the blood. They needed
Did it hurt?
Yeah.
Well, I was fighting so much, I couldn't even tell you.
Well, that's it.
Now I can actually walk.
Yeah.
Drawing it.
I think once you've had babies, you could, go on then.
Yeah.
That's it. But my earliest memory of the school is just like when you have to strip down to your pants and your vest, and the school knit nurse would come and she would inspect you for knits, and her hands were freezing cold, and the disease that spread through schools anyway. But education, we were talking about all inclusive. Sorry, back to the theme. The theme of International Women's Day is just inspiring and inclusive. So you're a doctor, Heather. Dr. Heather B. But you don't act like you're not pompous. No. You're so humble. You're the most humble doctor I've ever met.
Amen.
Amen. And there's women that feel, I guess, because they haven't had an education, perhaps they didn't have the opportunity to have an education, still blaming their parents for that lack of education, but almost feeling insignificant. There's Heather, there's them. Why shouldn't they feel like that? I mean, Keziah, you obviously studied,
my background was HR. Yeah.
And I left the school at 16, but I got in to the advertising media straight away. So I was fortunate I was able to climb the ladder that way, and then went back to study coaching at a later. I always say to people that the teacher said I was thick and I was rubbish at reading. No, you weren't rubbish. It's just because the books they were giving you were very boring. So how can we just squash those self-limiting beliefs that are preventing women from moving forward into their destiny that God has called them into?
I mean, whatever age you're at, if you still feel, because I know women who went back to study later on in life, they always felt that was something, because it could have been at the time down to financial, whatever their family setup was, they had to go out to work. They couldn't really afford to spend those years studying. So they've gone back to study later on in life. Nothing wrong with that. So if it's still a desire, do it. If you feel that you want to do it, go back and study. I've got friends that retrained in their 50s to become nurses.
Wow.
So so it doesn't matter if it's something you personally want to do. I'd encourage you to just go and do it. If you don't want to do it, or you've reconciled to the fact that you don't want to do it, then inside of you've got to say, okay, I've made peace with that. I don't need the academic piece of paper to validate who I am. But in the same time, don't walk around with that victim mentality. I feel inadequate, because you made a decision to not study. And we've known loads of people in the Bible who came through in ways that you thought would have held them back. So we know in the marketplace there are people historically who didn't finish their studying because they were so honed in on whether it's technology, whatever, and they built up their empire without the qualifications. I know nowadays that bit of paper does matter a lot more now. But I just think, it's either two camps. You want to go back and study. I know they're charging now, so obviously.
Oh, I can't believe how much a degree. What is it like on average? £40,000.
Over 10 grand a year.
So I'm glad that young people have kind of developed that entrepreneurial spirit, almost ways to survive and make money, not just succeed. And I hope that companies introduce more on apprenticeships and things like that. But Heather, you are a doctor. What made you want to do that, go the extra mile? What made you want to do the doctor? Because it is a lot. It's 5 years, isn't it, studies?
I think for me, it wasn't the title. I think it was just more the field.
Right.
And how I can help people.
Yeah.
And for me, that's the biggest thing. That's why I don't walk around thinking I'm better than anybody, because the title, we're all children of God. We're all loved by God. Title doesn't mean nothing.
Yeah.
You can
Wow.
have the best title in the world and know nothing.
Can I just say something on that? Because I'm going to be controversial. I seem to be the one who's causing trouble tonight. All right. You're of African heritage. All right.
Yes.
Is there a stereotype? Okay, I don't want to be, generalized, where African parents say you're going to be a doctor, accountant, or a lawyer.
Yeah.
You know, like the pressure.
But even the psychologist,
Just to have the
or
title.
even the psychology role wasn't really accepted when I was doing it at that time. They were like,
it's a
what
bit
the
too
hell is that?
touchy-feely, Billy.
No, I think it was just the lack of understanding.
Right.
Yeah, it was more like you need to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, an accountant.
Right. Tangible.
Yeah. Even a nurse could pass as well. So those are the ones that forever those jobs will hold, even a teacher. But other things like psychology or, even entrepreneurship is like, what's that? If you tell, even if those social media influencers are getting money now, if you tell an African that, they'll be like, what the hell? Make sure you study so you have something kind of background. Just in case to fall back on. So that stereotype is definitely true. And even me going into psychology, it was like, what is that?
That's supposed to be one of the hardest degrees, right?
Yeah, it's hard.
Philosophy and psychology.
Hard, yeah. But because I loved it, I don't know.
So you're passionate.
Yeah, it's just in me.
Yeah.
So what sort of books, I mean, when you've got time, what sort of books do you like reading then?
Oh Lord, me and reading.
Or do you read? I'm assuming.
Can
I just say that we have Heather B, Dr. Heather B is an author herself. I couldn't put this down. So how can people get hold of your book?
Oh, you can go on Amazon. Any of the bookstores, really.
Becoming Intentionally.
Message us.
Becoming Intentionally Me. It's a great book.
Yeah. And for the listeners, we know you can't see it. But
oh, sorry.
It's Becoming Intentionally Me, which you can find on Amazon and all good bookstores.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much for. I love, like Keziah, I know you're younger than me, but you're like my big sister.
I'm not younger than you.
Okay, all right then. Well, we won't go into age now, but you feel like my big sister all the time. It's great because I've got 3 big brothers. I never had sisters. In fact, I didn't even. There's some things I didn't even know before until I came to church. Before I had sisters around me. Even like how to pluck my eyebrows. And that's really bad. I got saved at like 29, so I went with hairy eyebrows up till I was 29, 30. And I'm thinking, what did it look like? Oh my goodness! And I thought I was all right before. But I know that simple things like that, how to brush your hair at the back and make sure you iron, and it was like I love sisterhood and sisterly love and everything. And sometimes when you're not a Christian, I realize that it's not that women are competitive. Yeah, women are competitive.
They are.
Yeah, let's face it. And even in church, they can be quite competitive. So I love my sisters that will tell me that my petticoat showing. The most embarrassing thing that ever happened to me was one time I was on praise and worship and I went to go back on stage and my 2 friends were shouting, Helen, top of my voice. I said, why are you shouting at me like that? And I didn't realise that my whole skirt and petticoat was tucked into my knickers. So I had gone onto stage in front of like 200 people with my they'll tell me, whereas before there could be certain women think, oh, let her do it, something laugh at her. So
you've got to come to the rescue.
So I love that kind of sisterhood and finding that proper sisters that aren't sisters. What do they say, sisters from another mother?
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for even the sisters we have on UGNJAMZ. Yes.
Love all women. Shout out to the rest of the team.
So we've talked tonight about by the way, we're doing exclusive with myself because Helen Paul, Dr. Heather B and Keziah Job, and it's the UGNJAMZ ladies, and we've gone deep. We've spoken about everything. What haven't we talked about? We just want to encourage you as the listener that you are, if you're listening, your lady, you are special. You are God's
Yes.
daughter, and He
Amen.
has a purpose for you, no matter what your age, your situation, your race, your culture, whatever your background, wherever you're from.
It's just important. It's important for all women, you know, around the globe, really, to feel inspired to do and become what God has created them to become. Even if you're a non-believer, you still have a purpose.
Yeah,
maybe you haven't discovered it yet in you know, in the sight of God, but yes, you do have a purpose. And with that, we're gonna go for another break because we absolutely need to. We've got some great music coming up, and enjoy every moment of it.
To advertise or get your music played, contact sales at UGNRadio.com and someone will definitely get back to you as soon as possible. Remember, sales at UGNRadio.com. Details on our website at UGNJAMZ.com.
You're tuned into UGNJAMZ, and it's the UGNJAMZ ladies this evening. We're live. Myself, Helen Paul, Heather B, and Keziah Job. Welcome, welcome. If you've just tuned in, you're a bit late, but it's okay. I'm sure we will repeat the show at some point. I want to say a big shout out to Pastor Andrew John. Good evening. Hope you're having a great evening, a week so far. And we've been talking about all sorts this evening, and everything to do with women. And of course, we're celebrating International Women's Day and Mother's Day. And UGNJAMZ, we're milking it because we're going to celebrate it for the whole month, I think.
Wonderful.
Yeah. And I noticed on your show, you were playing you had some lovely testimonies from women about what it is to be a woman. And I've got an interview tomorrow night with, one thing about being a woman, it's, I don't know whether we've got some sort of built-in superpower, because we do something automatically. But when a man, I'm going to be really controversial, as always, when a man does something, it's almost like he wants to like be acknowledged for doing it, or not all men. But when we do it, we just get on with it. And despite, whether anyone's noticing or not, we've just got this inbuilt sort of resource battery that keeps us going.
But I'll be controversial in that as well, because even though we may not get all the well dones, but whoever comes along gets the shouting.
Oh,
the outburst, the projections.
Wow.
Don't you appreciate me? Look at all this. So I feel like even though
it's like a steamer. What's those pressure cooker? Pressure cooker. Yeah. They just get on and on and on. Eventually, it's one last straw. That's it now. I need some appreciation. Yeah. So do you think we appreciate International Women's Day is a great thing? Do you think we should? Mother's Day is a great thing. Father's Day do you think we should? International Women's Day. What does it mean to you, Heather?
I think it's appreciating that we all are one body with many functions, and acknowledging each other, that we need each other. We need each other. Every time we think about sisterhood, it's always, especially in the media, it's always about like comparison and jealousy and all these kind of things. But it's important that we know that the person that you see in the news is you are that person. The Bible says that when you look at someone else's heart, you're looking at yourself. So it's important to know that just as I'm celebrating this person, maybe the things in me that I also need to celebrate, because there's a lot of people that come to this day and they're like, I haven't achieved anything. The fact that you woke up today, the fact that you're here today, listening to us, is an acknowledgement, is an accomplishment. I feel like when it comes to this day, sometimes it is the external things that are acknowledged or, clapped out loud and stuff like that. But we have to remember there are loads of things that we take for granted. The fact that you had a shower today, the fact that you were able to
hot water.
Hot water.
My friend's boiler was broke for about 6 weeks, and just to have hot water, because she'd be working every day, and to get the gas people round on a day you're not working is just an achievement in itself. So the internal things is that this is a food for thought for anyone out there. Just
think about the internal traits, things that are enduring, and just ask yourself, have I celebrated those things in me today? You know, nowadays I celebrate so much self-advocacy. The fact that I can speak up for myself, because the things that I would just let go and just say, I thought that was a good thing to do as a Christian, you know, because that's what we're taught.
Yeah.
And I'm appreciating much more that I can sit in that discomfort and advocate for myself, because I'm so used to advocating for so many people that sometimes we forget as women, we don't advocate for ourselves. Or we have people telling us, oh, shh, don't talk too much, or you don't want to sound rude, you don't want to hush, hush, hush. And you're suppressing all those emotions, and then the outbursts come. But the fact that you can stand up for yourself, like God has put me in so many situations this year where, you know, before I'll be like, oh, I'm just keep it to myself, pray, let it go. But I realize it's harming me, because it's harming how I see another sister, another brother. So it's important, you know, God has really been showing me, putting me in situations where he's like, you need to learn how to advocate for yourself. Yeah, you can't rely on other people. If you don't advocate for yourself, how can someone else stand up and defend you?
So speak out as opposed to bottling it up.
Don't bottle it in. And that is my accomplishment as a woman this year.
Hey, well done.
Not being afraid to want more, because as women, you know, especially when we are surrounded by a lot of women as well, you know, sometimes we feel scared to want more. We feel like we need to pull everyone along and make sure they grow before we go the next step. Look, this is my maybe permission for you. Go, just take that step, and
don't worry who's on the journey. Don't worry who you have to leave behind. You're going to meet new people on the way.
It's okay to want more.
Hey,
that's very that's very encouraging, because I think, like you saying, that, you know, take that step, because I think, again, you know, that innate nurturing, you do, like a mother hen, want to have your brood around you, don't you? And so the idea of flying solo, some of the time it can be quite daunting, I think, for some women, and they've not experienced that. Maybe they've not experienced that. So the idea of giving yourself permission to do that is I
guess sometimes God calls us to be eagles, and they do fly very lonely, don't they? And leave all the chatter and go higher. And it is it's sometimes it's just for a season, isn't it? So don't be scared of the season. The success can be a lonely place.
Because that's what I was going to say. That sometimes it is for a season, and so that's why it's like, so, you know, when the water's being stirred, you know, jump right in, because it could be that, you know, this is the season for you to do what you need to do, and it's only there for a time.
And remember, there's other eagles up there as well. Like literally, there's other eagles. You may have left some of the chickens, but there are other eagles that you're gonna have to learn from.
And of course, when we refer to chicken, it's all the small talk and the things that are really not important and that are not going to advance you. Sometimes you need to step out of that zone and go into the kind of you know, we call it altitude and attitude and mindset. Yes,
definitely.
Because what does International Women's Day mean to you?
Well, I think it's taking time out to spotlight, highlight, and acknowledge women around the world and their various backgrounds, where they come from. I think, I don't know historically why they felt there was a need to actually establish International Women's Day, but obviously there must have been some form of lack, whether it's in the public space or public setting. And so this time, really, it's just about acknowledging and highlighting women in all their many different varieties, and also, I guess, highlighting where there is a lack or a gap, and acknowledging what can be done about fixing that. So if it's, that we're not showing up in media enough, or if we're not showing up in technology enough, how can we bridge that gap, and what resources are needed to plug that gap, not just for now, but for the future, so that women continuously will show up where they need to, and it's biblical as well, because God, you just watch the ministry of Jesus and you see how he utilized women from all different walks of life, and he they show up in the scripture. So we know that there is a principle. He's probably, one of the earliest people that understood the word of being inclusive, and inspiring those women back then to, carry the gospel and carry the works that they were doing forward, so yeah.
And I'm just going to say, I'm going to be controversial because that seems to be my role tonight.
Pop your name from
yeah.
to controversial.
Can I just say, don't live and feel that you need to live up to other people's expectations. Only live to God's expectations. Because when we start to try and please people, or I'll give you a scenario. Dave went into work one day and his hands were dry, and this is just like, well, doesn't your wife give you hand cream? I'm like, hello. And it's the same thing as someone comes into your house as a woman. If someone comes into your home as a woman, even though there's a man living with you, a husband, if you're married, and the house is messy,
it's you, isn't it?
It's fault.
Oh, yeah.
So I just want to say to you, do not be determined by other people's expectations. Just live by God's expectations of you, because you are never going to please everyone.
Never.
And there's always someone that's got something to say. But what you find is that it's because they are reflecting their own inadequacies, or they're reflecting their own jealousies, or they're trying to sort of, trying to make cracks in something that's solid. But God, you are a daughter of God, and it is His purpose for your life that counts. But I think we're going to hear some more music in a moment.
And if you've got a daughter, you haven't the hair. Why didn't you comb the hair properly?
Oh gosh, and it's the mum's fault, isn't it? My goodness.
But we can have some more music.
Yes.
I think we need to.
To advertise or get your music played, contact sales at UGNRadio.com, and someone will definitely get back to you as soon as possible. Remember, sales at UGNRadio.com. Details on our website at UGNJAMZ.com.
So, where were we before we had our musical break?
We were talking about, of course, you're listening to the UGNJAMZ ladies, Helen Paul, Heather B, and Keziah Job, and we were talking about being women and this inbuilt strength. But Heather, I remember hearing you speaking, and I realised something, that sometimes strength can be disguised.
Yeah.
And you said something really interesting when I saw you speaking a couple of weeks ago. You said something about, are you at peace or are you just numb?
Yeah.
So sometimes numbing can be numbing our emotions can be a coping mechanism for not how we're truly feeling.
Yeah.
So can you just elaborate on that just a bit?
I think as women, as we've kind of stated throughout today's show, that we feel like we have to do everything, and sometimes in doing that we don't get time to just cry, to actually say, you know what, this is how I'm actually feeling, and not feeling bad for feeling that way. Feeling that you don't have it all together, you're anxious, maybe it's a mistake you've done, something that how can you give yourself grace if you don't acknowledge that you need grace? And I feel like for some of us, that we're saying, like, I have the peace of God, I'm fine, everything is, and you're lying to yourself.
Whoa, you went there.
You are. And I guess it's that kind of narrative behind church. It has been inbuilt from the church, stating that, to feel your emotions is to say God doesn't exist, or to feel your emotions is not good because the heart can be deceitful. And when we use scriptures such as that, it does numb us, because we're not allowing ourselves to actually feel and be vulnerable. The way to truly get revelation from God is through vulnerability. The greatest one is David. We know throughout the whole of scripture, he's like telling God, I am done, I'm depressed, help me, see my fears, see this and that. And one of the recent things I said was that, when Paul was speaking about his thorns, and he was like, God, take it away from me, I can't really go further without this thing. Is keep, every time I hit somewhere, there's a thorn that keeps attacking me. And it was in that vulnerability that he saw God's sufficiency. And so sometimes we are saying and quoting scripture, not really realizing that each and every one of the people that we see in the Bible were vulnerable enough to see the character, the nature of God. And how do we see that? Even in others, you know, if we're not vulnerable enough, we don't know how safe another person can be. You know, we don't know how beautiful a person really is if we are not vulnerable and we don't actually tell each other stories. And not vulnerable where everyone's just exposing their life on social media. Because some people say, you know what, I'm done. I'm at peace.
I see someone talk 15 minutes about their divorce on social media. Like a video. I'm like, no, not the right environment.
Yeah, can we just talk about that? Controversial, as we're saying. Stop building your ministry from pain, please. It's just it can be another coping mechanism and also an idol in our lives. It's like
going back to the same old story.
Yeah, like you have to keep. It's keeping you limited because you've had to build a ministry.
Comfortable zone.
And then everyone that comes to you looks like you.
Wow. That is deep.
It's so wow. So I'm remembering, I can't remember her name now, but in my early Christian walk, there was a particular lady who did go through a lot of trauma, and her whole ministry was built on her testimony of what she went through. And every time I saw her 3 times, and every time I saw her, and she'd get to a certain part in the story, and it's like she's reliving it, and she always used to break down. And over a period of time, she always looked very fragile and frail. And so now you're saying it, it's like, okay, so when God does renew your spirit and you've moved on, that means that you can't really preach or testify from the same space
No,
because you're a new person now, aren't you? And so is it that, you know, if you go to somewhere and they say, oh, can we book you because you're known for this, and you say, well, yes, that is part of my testimony, but it's not the largest part anymore.
Does it almost have become like a sensationalism?
And so people might want to keep you there because that's why they're booking you,
and you become comfortable there.
Or you have to transform your testimony so that women who are where you were,
I was there, but now I'm here,
see your journey. So you need to add that bit to your ministry so that people
or
can
just
see.
not do the ministry. Just share your testimony, but don't create a ministry out of it, please. And I also want to add this as well. Sometimes it's okay to quit as well. I think as not just Christians, but women overall, we feel like we have to keep pushing on. And I remember this quote so beautifully that said, a diamond and a bread dough both rest. But, you know, so a bread dough, what am I saying? The bread dough still grows at rest, whereas the diamond is under pressure. Sometimes you have to know when you are the diamond and when you're the bread dough. And sometimes you have to know when you have to quit. Like, this part of me is finished, and that's where the grief comes in, because a lot of people are reliving things because they haven't actually healed, and that's where the numbing comes, because we can use ministry to numb us without even realizing, and we put God's signature all over it. Give yourself permission to quit, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a job, whether it's a career, whether it's a dream, whatever it is, give yourself that permission to quit. It's okay.
And can I just say, in that, just have the right people around you. Don't have yes people, people pleasers, and people that will just agree with everything. You know, Keziah and everyone, all of our UGN team. You know, when I've been going through absolute like disappointment, when normally I would have kept it to myself, when I've shared, I remember one occasion I shared with you something, and I was so beaten down and disappointed, and I felt, oh, we failed. But you just said in one word, you know, with your wisdom, you know, perhaps there is a reason that it is not the time for this. And then lo and behold, lockdown happened straight after. So it you know, and I just thank God for the people around me. And I guess it's really important to have those counsel type people around you. And someone once told me in coaching, that always have people. Who would you sit around the table?
Mm.
Who are your people? You know,
Yeah.
your key people. If you need to like come and who would you choose as your key people around the table of wisdom? And I guess it's important to keep those people around you.
Yeah.
Don't have like people that are just going to agree to everything you say,
And people
because you need to people that you need
Yeah.
to have people that disagree
We need to grow. Yeah.
to grow.
Yeah.
Or was it iron sharpens iron?
Yeah. Scottish.
Success.
Scottish.
Yes, success breeds success.
That's it.
Anyway, look, we've got 3 minutes left. I just want to quickly say, I know it's like crazy. It's gone so quickly. Keziah, you know, you're in a space. Can I just say, you're in a very male-orientated space. You're a producer as well. Hammond and Harmony.
Hammond and Harmony production
In reggae.
In reggae.
Oh my
gospel
goodness!
reggae.
Have you had men say, yeah, "What you can"?
Well,
you cut them down.
Send it to my face.
No, but you've got that look.
Yeah, they haven't said it to my face, but I think they don't believe the extent of my involvement in the music itself. They don't, maybe they just, I don't know what they think. Again, what Heather said, don't care what. I know what I do. I know what I bring to the table.
That's it.
And very happy with what I'm doing. Shout out to my co-producer, Stuart Green from Free Chronicle Studio. Yep. So, very male dominated.
Well done, though.
Yeah.
So the key is, ladies, when we were listening to UGNJAMZ, the UGNJAMZ ladies, you don't have to fit in.
No.
You don't have to fit. You can be a square peg in a round hole. Is that the word?
That's right.
You know, just be. It's okay to be different. It's okay to be in environments that are completely alien to other people, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you were talking about you're black. Obviously, you're a black girl. You're Ghanaian, but some of your space is like very white dominated.
Yeah.
You're a female in a male dominated thing. I don't know what I am. I'm just me, really. I've never fitted in. When I've tried to, it's gone really horribly wrong, and I've just been around these really just like, I shouldn't say repulsive people, but that's really bad to say that. I realized that the people that I realized from a really young age that are people that I attract are quite quirky and very artistic. And they're all like odd bods in their own space.
That's your tribe.
Yeah, that's my tribe.
Yeah.
So and just be grateful for who you are and who God's called you to be.
Amen.
And never be ashamed, never apologize
Amen.
for who you are.
So thanks for having us, Helen. Thank you, Heather. Heather's on at 10 o'clock right after the show. We're winding down now, and it's been an absolute pleasure sharing the couch with you ladies today. Yeah, thank you so much.
We're going to hear some wonderful music now.
Bye.
Bye.
This is UGN Jams.